Hi everyone, it's Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of my ongoing series entitled Monogamous at 13. Um, Anytime I make a video, as always, I ask that my viewers take a moment to become anchored and grounded, which means that you can use any object at all that fits in your hand or that you can hold on your lap or anything that will bring you comfort and allow you to connect really easily to your body. And what I might mean by that is we're using our senses to make sure that we feel safe. So when we hold something in our hand, it makes us connected in our brain to our body and makes it so that if we're discussing or learning about or listening to something that could be a little bit triggering for us, then we have that connection and it goes a long, long way in helping us to feel safe. So that's why I always ask that my viewers do that, and I do it myself each time that I'm making a video. So today's topic, because it's the beginning of the year, and as I've explained in prior videos, I'm giving a lot of attention to the topic of suicide. Some people prefer to call it suicide prevention, suicide awareness, and to help people to understand certain really basic things about suicidality, suicidal ideation, and when someone that we know or love or care about, or just even loosely new in our community, has taken that choice and brought it to completion, and what we're left with afterwards, and all the conflicted feelings, and in many cases, the sorrow, the trauma, the impossibly difficult pain that we carry. And my work is, as a trauma recovery coach, is to help people understand this concept and this process a little bit better. And I can use what happened in my life to help people to have a clearer understanding of some of these concepts. So if you've been following my channel, you may have known already that I was invited to go and make an episode of a fantastic resource for individuals who are interested in learning about suicide. And it's the project of a filmmaker in Connecticut. His name is Joe Massa. His last name is spelled Massa. And he is an incredibly gifted filmmaker and has won multiple awards for his videos that he has made on the topic of suicide and other topics. But I wanted to share with you a little bit of information about that, because it was just an incredible opportunity for me to be able to go meet him. And how this all started was very, very late at one night. I was just kind of skimming through some stuff on YouTube, and I came across his channel. And I watched one of his videos. And after I watched his video, then I knew right away I have to watch all of his videos. And I expected there to be a massive library of them, but there wasn't. There were nine videos. So over the course of a few days, I watched them all, and a couple of them I rewatched over the coming months. And but that night, when I was sitting up in my bed and learning about his channel and the videos that he has made, the interviews that he has done, they're not necessarily interviews because he just allows somebody to tell their story. He's not being an interviewer. I misspoke. That's not what he's doing. But people have offered to share their story with him so he can preserve it on video and then release it out onto a platform or two or several and allow it to be a resource in the world. So when I contacted him right away, the first night that I was watching those videos, and I sent him, I sent an email because his email was listed in his channel's description. And I did not expect for him to answer me right away, but he did. And it wasn't like instantaneously, but I was watching those videos at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he answered me the same day, which I was quite surprised about. But after I've met him, no, I'm not surprised anymore that that's how he conducts business. But what I'm trying to share with you is that when I said to him, I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I've been interested in the concept of suicidality for quite some time, and that I am a survivor myself, and I've talked about that multiple times in my videos. And I said, I just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing, and it's incredible, it's meaningful, it's important, and my heart's just full of gratitude that you've created this project. And I did not expect him to ask the question that he asked, which was, would you ever be interested in making an episode? And immediately I said, yes, I would love to do that. And he said, well, I'm paraphrasing here, but I'll bankrupt myself if I make trips out all across the country to go to people. He said, I get contacted by so many people who say, I would love to be in an episode. And he says, can you get here to Connecticut? And they say, oh, I can't take the time off from work, or I would never be able to afford the airfare, or my car can't make a trip. I can't trust my car to go 3,000 miles across the country to come and see you. And, it's an older car and I can't afford to rent one or whatever. So he said, people say yes, and then they think about it for a couple minutes and they say, oh, wait, I can't. And so, and I told him, well, actually, I work from home. I work for myself. I am able to do this, and I could probably accommodate your schedule. And it, went back and forth a little bit for a while, and then a date was selected, and it was to be in January of 2025. And so I drove. It's like, I don't know, somewhere about 440 miles from my home to his location in Connecticut. Stayed at a beautiful, beautiful hotel for 2 nights. And the first full day that I was there, I arrived in the late afternoon on Friday, and then this past Friday, and then we were scheduled to meet up to to do the filming on Saturday. And I thought that it was going to take all day long, and it did not. We were working from 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 p.m. And then it was just one of the most pleasant, comfortable, easy, relaxed experiences that I've ever had with another human being. The communication was effortless. The respect was just over the top. And I mean the respect from him towards me, a person he's never met before. But he was just incredibly kind and full of humility, and just as open and supportive and generous and compassionate as a person could be. So I shared my story, and it will be airing, he said, somewhere in around like a month to 6 weeks, around there, because he has a full-time job, and the editing work that he does take a considerable amount of time to do. And so I said, I'm not on any timeline for this. It's not something that I need to happen at any particular point in time. And so when it's completed is when it's completed. When it airs is when it airs. And I'm not in any way stressed or concerned about that. So it was just a really cool exchange. And he shared with me a little bit about, some cool things that are around that area. I wish I had been able to spend more time. As soon as I got checked out of my hotel, I was immediately wishing that I had booked another night in my hotel and had arranged with people who were watching my pets to stay an extra day. I would have loved to have done that. But I will share with you for a minute what I did do. Um, Many of you have heard me say that I give my spine excellent care because technically I am disabled. I have 7 herniated discs and severe spinal stenosis. So my spine has plenty of issues. And for years, I had been a pain management patient. And just the month of January in 2025, officially, I am no longer a pain management patient. It has been almost 9 years of my life lived as a pain management patient. And I'll make another video sometime to speak more about what that means. And many of you already know what it means to be a pain management patient. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that is helpful, and a lot of stuff is things that you have to kind of just allow. But when I had booked this trip, and I was taking my own car, and I knew that there was, because it's January, there were some things that were just going to right away be off limits to me, because if there's ice on the ground, I can't risk a fall. I have to be really, really careful about what I do and where I go and how I step, how much I walk, how long I'm on my feet. All of that is just part of my lifestyle now because of my spine. And so I was kind of poking around on the internet, and in one of the conversations I had with Joe, he told me, oh, there's a really cool, beautiful state park that's very close to where you're going to be staying. And I kind of stuck a pin in that and thought, you know what, that might be just the thing for me. It might be where I like to go because I'm the town of Greenwich, Connecticut is where I was staying, and actually I was staying in Old Greenwich, Connecticut. It's different than, it's a town over from Greenwich, Connecticut. But that's where I was staying, and I went to, on my last day when I checked out. Oh, I started telling you something. I'm sorry, I have to backtrack just a second. When I was speaking about my spine, I was thinking, you know what, I go to the YMCA to give my back relief every single day. It's part of my spine care, is to go to the YMCA, usually 5 to 6 days a week, and get in the water and do some certain stretches and movements, because that's what helps me to reduce my pain. And if I don't do that for a few days, my back really, really feels it, and it feels better to do it than to not do it. So I kind of scoped out before I left, where is the nearest YMCA to the hotel that I was staying at. So on Saturday when we finished filming, within an hour I was in my car on my way downtown, and to go to a YMCA branch. It's an urban YMCA branch. And it's in an incredibly old part of Greenwich, Connecticut, and it's beautiful. It's just absolutely stunningly gorgeous there. Architecture is just mind-blowing. But anyways, when I got there, it took me some doing to get there. It took me about a half an hour to, between driving there and then parking and then walking a short distance to get there. That was a shock to me when I got there, because guess what? They're hosting a swim meet, and the pool facility is completely closed off to the public for the entire weekend. So I was there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was impossible for me to go use this facility. And my hotel had a pool, but not a YMCA type pool for certain types of exercise. Some of it is deep end exercise, and my hotel pool was 3.5 feet to 4 feet deep. And it was lovely, and it was the warmest hotel pool I think I've ever been in, other than the one that was in Anaheim, California, that was about 100 degrees at all times. It was an outdoor pool. This one was an indoor pool, and it felt like it was between 90 and 100 degrees. But it was spectacular and lovely, and I was able to do some water exercise to give my back some relief. But and I'm very appreciative that it was there, that it was part of my hotel experience. But anyways, that's what I ended up having happen. So I got to go on an adventure to go look around in another town and find my way around, find my way back. The GPS makes it super easy, of course. But on the day that I checked out of my hotel, I checked out a little bit early, and I went to a place, a state park that's called Greenwich Point State Park, and it's on Long Island Sound. It's only a couple of miles from, it's very, very close to Long Island, and it was quite a beautiful experience to go there because it's a state park that literally is on a very narrow peninsula going way out into the Atlantic Ocean. And of course, everything has its changes from what you expect. Just like I expected to get to the Y and to be able to say, hold up my tag and say, I'm nationwide. I have a membership that gets me into any Y in the, in the continental United States. And I just thought it would be like that. Everything that I planned for going to this state park is going to be so wonderful because you get to drive way out onto the point and it loops around and then you come right back onto the mainland when you're leaving. And this time I checked ahead. This time of year, there's nobody taking admission to the park at the booth because it's the off season. And another really interesting thing is that when you go, they have restriction for it's only open to the people who live there, people who live in Connecticut, to their state residents. That's who the park is for. But in the off season, it's open to any visitors that want to come in. It's just from Memorial Day until Labor Day. It's reserved exclusively for the people who live there. Of course, if you have visiting guests and they're riding in the same car or whatever, of course you can bring them in. But I was from out of state, and I knew that if it was the high season, I would not be allowed to set foot in that park. But I was excited about it because it was not the high season, it's the off season. And I got there and all I could think of was, I'm just so ready to go way out on that point and go to the furthest point you can go out on land before you touch water in this location. And I pulled in the parking lot and it says two things. For on Sundays, and it was Sunday, I forget what their phrase for it is, but I think they call it Safe Sunday, Safe Road Sunday. I'm pretty sure it's called Safe Road Sunday, meaning it's closed to cars, so people and their dogs or anybody who's cycling or anything like that does not have to worry about automobile traffic. So they eliminate automobile traffic for that entire way all the way out to the point. Well, it was way too long for me to be able to walk. There's just absolutely no way that I could have walked it because my spine just simply can't do that. But I parked in the parking lot, and then they have another sign that says there are no dogs allowed off leash on the beach. And during the high season, no dogs are allowed on the beach at all. But in the off season, if you want to bring your dog to the beach, you can. But the law is, if you must pick up after your dog, or you're going to get a minimum of $100 fine if you get caught allowing your dog to eliminate on the beach without you picking it up and disposing of it. The other issue is you must have your dog on a leash at all times. It's a minimum $100 fee for second offenses. It has the whole list of, second, third offenses. It's going to go up drastically. But here's what happened. I got out of my car and I started walking towards this, crescent-shaped beach. And obviously you're looking at homes on the mainland right there. It's very, very close. And the dogs were having absolutely a fantastic time, and there were dozens of them, and almost every single one of them was off leash. So, and it's like, I am enjoying being in this beautiful place. It couldn't be more gorgeous to look at. And from a trauma survivor standpoint, this is almost nirvana. Okay, to just go there and see the scenery is incredible. You're thinking, I'm I'm wearing boots up to my knees, my big old muck boots, which are originally, designed for people who muck stalls on farms. They're waterproof and they're insulated, they're warm, and it was the best footwear that I could have on for walking through little tide pools. And I mean, even in the winter, of course, there are still tide pools. But to be able to walk almost up to my knees out into the Atlantic Ocean was too big of a thrill for me to describe to you. It was just incredible. It brought me nearly to tears. And this is really important. This is what is the nugget at the center for me to share with you today. I have never taken a trip that far from home in my life by myself, ever. I drove to Hamden, Connecticut, drove to Newport, Rhode Island, drove all through Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island with my mother and my daughter in the car. I'd been a passenger with my husband driving to the very same states. Went to New London, Connecticut, Mystic, Connecticut, Newport, Rhode Island, Galilee, Rhode Island, Boston, Massachusetts, Hyannisport, Massachusetts, P-Town, a province town, Massachusetts, all throughout New England, all the way up to Maine, but I've never, ever done it myself. So this was really a spiritual journey for me. It was a trauma recovery journey for me. And it was something that I had been focused on for 6 months. Actually, I believe it was June of 2024 when I contacted the filmmaker for the first time, to contact Joe Massa to, just to tell him, hey, your project is just fantastic. I have so much gratitude for what you're doing. I would love to chat with you about this sometime. And I never ever expected what happened next, which was, hey, you want to come out to Connecticut? You want to come here and be in an episode? I would love to meet you. I'd love to talk about this. And the fact that you're a certified trauma recovery coach puts a whole different spin on it, because I'd like to get your opinions on what is this? It was just, this is a human being who's just trying to figure out, this happened with somebody who I love and care about and have known for years. And that person was the first episode that he made, when that person opened up to him and said, yeah, I've experienced suicidality. And he said, can we make a video? And that's how the first one happened. So this was just an unexpected, just the biggest wow that I could ever have, as far as part of my own experience, my feelings, what went on in my life, and then combine that with, way later on, I get to become a certified trauma recovery coach, because things lined up for me to be able to pay for the course and for me to be able to attend the course, do the work, take the exam, and get certified. And then to be learning more through that course about suicidality, and then processing my own, learning about that of other people, and then having this moment where I'm wearing my boots and I'm standing in the Atlantic Ocean in Long Island Sound, just right on the very edge of Greenwich, Connecticut. And it's the most westerly town in southern Connecticut, before you would be right at the border of New York, and then just Hudson River's right there, and on the way there, literally past the Manhattan skyline, and it was just about brought me to tears. It was so beautiful. But speaking about all of this, it's hard for me to convey how profound the moment was for me to recognize you're over 400 miles from home, you're standing in the ocean, you came and did something that so far only 9 other people have had the opportunity to do with this incredibly talented young filmmaker who works entirely by himself, by the way. Sometimes he said sometimes his girlfriend helps him with lighting and with setting things up, but this particular day she couldn't make it, and I was sorry to have not been able to meet her. She must be lovely, but it was just him, and I just felt like I'm such a tiny little piece of the universe, and my little human brain can't figure out how I've been given so much massive opportunity. And I'm thinking, I'm 1 out of 8 billion people. I'm all by myself. There's no one here with me, not one other person to share this with. I'm on a beach where there's dozens of people, dozens of dogs, and I just really, really, really loved that moment. And in some way, on some level, I was deeply concerned that I wasn't with somebody who I could share it with. And at the same time, elated that I was not with somebody that I could share it with, because I was proving to myself that I'm enough. I was proving to myself, you can do whatever you choose to do. I had a belief for the longest time that I couldn't travel alone because it wouldn't be safe, or because I just wouldn't be able to handle it, or something that would come up that would be so big of a thing that could happen that I would be beside myself with not knowing what to do, because it's just me and I don't have somebody to turn to tell me what to do in this situation. What if I get in a bad accident and I'm all alone? What if I get really, really lost and I'm all alone? What if I get mugged and I'm all alone? What if, what if? You can come up with them all day long and say, well, there's another reason why I shouldn't do this alone. But to me, there was such a thrill from riding in the car and knowing I can do this. I'm not scared. I'm speaking with my best friend on the phone for a lot of the trip down there. Just, driving through New York State and driving through the Catskill Mountains. And we were having this fantastic conversation. And then she asked me, are you scared? Are you scared to be doing this? And I said, no, I'm exhilarated. And this is something that I learned recently in school, because I'm in school to become a hypnotherapist and a rapid transformational therapist, and what's called an RTT practitioner. I'm in school right now to be certified to do those things. And I was surprised when we learned the very first module of the course is when we were taught that our brain can't tell the difference between excitement and being nervous or scared to death. The response in the brain is not much different. And so that made me make my choice right away while I'm doing my schoolwork. Well, if my brain can't tell much difference between these two things, then I choose excitement. I'm going to choose excitement over scared every single time. Okay, there's an exception when something completely traumatizing is happening. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about when I have the conscious ability to make the choice. Am I going to be all twisted up and nervous and just full of anxiety about this? or am I going to be excited about it? If I'm given a choice, I'll choose excited. So my friend's response was, really? You're not scared? And I'm like, no, I am completely and utterly relaxed right now, but I do feel, excitement that I'm doing this. But I mean, as far as driving, I'm just all loosey goosey, relaxed, no muscle tension anywhere. I'm just totally cool with doing this. Checking into a hotel for a person who's a trauma survivor, and the only time I've ever checked into a hotel without my husband was, but I was still with other people. I was with my sister and her husband, and we were going to an out of state wedding for our nephew. And it felt similar, but it did not have anything close to the feeling of exhilaration about being by myself and doing this as a fully autonomous adult for the first time at age 61. And for those of you who have never tried it, I can't recommend it enough. It's just beyond description. The feeling of empowerment, the feeling of I am absolutely feeling my autonomy right now. I'm feeling my independence. I'm feeling my maturity. I'm feeling that I essentially can do anything. If I set my intention to do it, I can do it. And it was just phenomenal. Opening the door to my hotel room and walking in and just setting my things down and thinking, I made it from there to here without incident. And I just felt immensely proud of myself. And I felt immense satisfaction. And I knew that if I can do this one time, I can do it as often as I want to. With a caveat, as often as I can afford to. I had to save up for a while to do this trip, which again was exhilarating. You know, I wanted to be able to put none of it on a credit card. I wanted to be able to just pay for my hotel out of my savings and pay for my gas and my food and everything out of my savings. Well, this is kind of a cool thing, and those of you who are like me, who are diabetic, this is an interesting part of my story. I did not eat at a single restaurant, and I did not order room service the entire time I was gone. And that was a very, very exhilarating feeling as well, because I didn't want my progress that I've made with my weight loss and with my ability to control my diabetes through my diet. I did not want to derail that. So it felt better to me to not go to restaurants than it would have felt to go to restaurants. And I know that diabetic people can go to restaurants. Of course they can. But I had gotten myself on such a regulated eating plan that I love, and I didn't want to go off of it and then have to be feeling, while I'm experiencing this or when I've got a long ways to drive, I did not want to be worried about getting back to being balanced out and having my blood sugar controlled by my excellent diet. So I brought with me, I went to the supermarket the evening before the trip, and I bought everything that I eat regularly at home in a quantity that would get me through 3 to 4 days. And so most of it needed to be refrigerated. And so I figured, well, I have natural refrigeration because it's only 15 degrees out, or 20 degrees for a high of the day when I was leaving New York State. So I can just put this stuff in the bags that I have it in and just put it in the trunk. And when I get to the hotel, there will be a refrigerator in my room. I'll just bring it up and put it in the fridge. And that's exactly what I did. So I was able to bring my avocados and and my nuts and seeds and um, just the stuff that I eat that is not going to spike my blood sugar or give me a really big, sudden drop in blood sugar. And I felt fantastic physically the entire time. And it was absolutely worth it to not go to the beautiful concourse in the hotel and go to have the meal that was calling my name, that would have been chef prepared and would have been phenomenal. I just said no. I'm just going to have my thin sliced lean meat and my avocados and my almonds and my for a special treat, I was able to have some Triscuits and a little bit of pineapple mango salsa, things like that. Things that I know wouldn't give me a big, huge spike, but the whole point was I can 100% enjoy this, and I'm giving up certain things in order to feel fantastic. That's all that happened. So for one treat while I was there, I found a supermarket that was right near the hotel, and it was an incredible market. And I went and I found exactly what I could have, and brought that, little special thing to my hotel. And for the first time in my life, ever watched the movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. And it was just delightful. The movie is not quite delightful, but you know what I mean. The experience of, I don't want to go out for dinner, but I can find a market that has something that I can have that's special for me, but it's not going to give me any problem. And so the trip home, as soon as I was leaving Connecticut, one of those National Weather Service alerts came over my phones and told me that I was about to drive into a very significant snowstorm. And it is very twisty and windy and hilly driving through the Catskill Mountains. And it was frightening, and it added about 2 hours time to my trip. But there were points in time where I was going 20 miles an hour with my flashers on and thanking myself for giving myself brand new tires in November, anticipating this trip. Did everything I could to make my car as sound as it could be. I even had a new heater core put in my car because my car did not have heat for 2 years, and I did not want to be in a possible rollover accident and think I could have survived this. I wasn't injured, but I can't keep myself warm and I'm losing my core temperature, and never thought that this was how I wanted to leave the planet. The other thing is my airbags were not working in my car, and I even had those repaired so that I could take this trip and take it safely. So everything was done. A tune-up was done. Oil change was done. Everything you could think. My new wiper blades were put on the car. Every single thing was done in anticipation of the trip that could make it so, well, we can check that off the list as a possibility of something to go wrong. So just for a moment, I would like to say that trauma survivors, people who've had significant trauma, these are the things that help a person to be able to do something that they want to go do, is when we take care of certain situations to make sure I will be safe, my vehicle will be safe, I'm staying in a safe place, my blood sugar will be safe, I will not have any kind of diabetes related health issues because I'm planning it ahead. And we call this pre-paving. I'm pre-paving my trip to eliminate the possibility of certain issues. Now, you can't control everything. A person absolutely could have a health issue related to their diabetes on a trip, but planning ahead like that um, makes those contingencies way less likely. I mean, just really, really knocks the chances of them way down. And what does that give us as trauma survivors when we go on, a pretty involved trip? It's not just close to home overnight at a town, a couple towns away. It's a little bit more involved than that. Trauma survivors need to have pre-paving done to make sure that as many things can be eliminated from possibility or likelihood with some preparation, some planning. So it literally took me 2 months of a time to get all of the automobile things taken care of. And then I also made sure that I had my AAA. I upgraded my AAA to what used to be called the Gold Plan. I don't know if it is anymore, but it's the one with the most benefits you can get. I even took care of that just to make sure if I need to be towed, my car can be towed the maximum number of miles, and without me being, whacked with a couple $1,000 towing charge or something like that. But it all went really, really well. But there's something that it added to my life that can't be calculated. And that is the amount of recovery that comes from. And I was shocked to find out how much recovery I'm still doing. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I'm still recovering from my own trauma in ways that I didn't even expect. But I'll share with you one of them right now, and that is to make that entire trip, to go do that project, to participate in an award-winning video project for suicide survivors. To participate in that, combined with making the trip and getting all the way there without incident, staying there for a total of 2.5 days without incident, and then coming all the way back home through a snowstorm, incidentally, without incident. Everything went the way I would have wished for it to go. Could have done without the snow, but I'm from Western New York. It didn't really scare me. It's just a little bit more of an inconvenience because it slows you down. But for a trauma survivor to experience that level of independence and autonomy, and to plan something all the way through independently. I didn't have anybody else that I planned it with. It was planned by me. And to have the satisfaction of knowing I am capable of this. And I was told for years by multiple different people that I would never be capable of that you can't go far away from home by yourself. You could get killed, you could get raped, you could get robbed, you could have your car break down. I mean, they can just come up with an endless number of things that would make it so little old you must never attempt to do this because you wouldn't be safe. You just stay here. You just stay here. You just take the safe route at all times and just stay where you belong. Don't go out into the world. Don't go on adventures. Don't do anything by yourself because you're just never going to be able to do it. That was the message. Might not have sounded exactly like that, but that is the message that many trauma survivors, especially if we're in relationship with people who've been highly abusive, it can give us that belief. We can have that underlying belief that this is not for me. That's for other people way over there. All of those other people can go on independent trips, but there's something inherently faulty and bad and broken and shameful about me, and I'm not one of the people who's allowed to go do that. And what I did is prove to myself that yes, indeed, you are one of the people who can go do that. And guess what? Every single human being is capable of doing that. Even a person who has, let's say, for instance, a challenge of neurodivergence or brain injury or, you know, really significant health issues. Yes, you can have more independence at times. Might not be all the time, but you can have a little bit more independence at times. But it just takes some planning, and there might need to be a support person or support people. But it's still autonomy. It's still you making the choice to do something that you want to go do. And each one of us is going to have at least some people that we need to depend on in order to make it happen. You know, I depended on, you know, people at an automobile dealership in their service department to make multiple trips there to make it so this could happen. A few other things that needed to be done, you know, with other people and things to help me to be prepared to be able to do what I needed to do. So my experience was the greatest majority of it, I was doing it all by myself. But there's ways we can modify this. If you're a person who can't do it all by yourself, then you could ask yourself, then who would I need? And how much help from them would I need? What would I need to ask for? Who would I ask? But for me, it changed everything about what I believe I'm capable of. And so once you have an experience where you recognize that as a trauma survivor, you are capable of so much more than you were ever told for almost your entire life, that is life-changing. What does that give us? It gives us freedom. It gives us a much larger space where we can roam. It gives us a feeling of empowerment. It gives us a feeling of accomplishment. It gives us a feeling of immense connection to self. Just an absolute connection to self. And it might sound kind of dorky, but friendship with oneself. I absolutely love being my own companion. And I loved doing the things that I did that interacted with other people, even just for a fleeting moment. And the kindness that I experienced from people, especially from the person who is the creator of the video documentary series entitled My Suicide Story, Joe Massa. Incredible filmmaker, incredible human being. It was just an experience that was just beyond my greatest expectation. It was everything that I hoped it to be and more. And now here I am, safely back in my home, making a video about it to share with you. My grounding tool today was this beautiful little piece of nice rectangular kind of thick sea glass that was on the beach at Greenwich Point State Park in Connecticut. And I picked up a couple other little lovely things to show you. I don't know what kind of stone this is, but it appears to have a lot of quartz in it. It's very lovely. That'll make a nice grounding tool. This is a mussel shell, and it's still partly intact, and it was packed full of sand. So when I cleaned it out, I had to get all the packed sand out of there, and I did it without breaking the connection there for this mussel, but I thought that was lovely. Here's half of one, a little pretty mussel from the beach there, and a nice big half of an oyster shell. I love to pick up an oyster shell from a beach and bring it home as a memento. This is a barnacle, a little detached barnacle from on the beach. I think this is called a slipper shell. Okay, beautiful little soft pink slipper shell. And if that's not what it's called, feel free to put it in the comments to tell me what it is called if I got it wrong. And this little piece of stone with a barnacle attached. And I these are just all over. Well, while I was at that little beach at Greenwich Point State Park, the tide was out. It was low tide, and there were all kinds of rocks that were completely exposed. And I'm certain that when it's high tide, the tide is just on times when it's rough seas, it's got to be just slamming into those rocks and splashing away up onto the land. And I could just kind of picture what it's like there during a storm. But it wasn't a storm while I was there. There was no fog. It was just the water was like glass. There were no waves. It was just absolutely gorgeous and scenic as far as the eye can see, and peaceful. And I absolutely loved seeing those dogs running all over the place with no leashes on, right next to a sign that said every dog must be leashed or you get whacked with $100 fine. The dogs don't care. And I was kind of glad that most of the people didn't care. I only saw one dog, and all those dogs, there had to be 20 or 30 of them out there at that time when I was there. I only saw one dog with a leash on, but the dog was about 100 yards away from the owner, just galloping down the beach, dragging the leash. It was a place where the dogs were blissful because they were experiencing socializing and freedom and outdoors and smells and just everything being ideal for them, just playing with their doggy friends. And I'll never forget it as long as I live, because where I live there is no place where there's a beach that you can do that. You can have your dog on the beach in the off season, but they patrol it, the police patrol it, and you would not want to be caught with your dog off a leash because you're going to be going to town court. So everybody leashes. So this has been a really cool talk with you today. I wanted to share with you about my trip, and when the episode airs, I'll be so happy to let you know. And I do have to tell you, I was a little bit nervous at the beginning of the filming, and I misspoke about one of my incidents that happened because I had two ideas that were in my head about two similar experiences, and in my actual story of what happened to me in my teenage years, I got them a little bit goofed up, and I told him when we were done filming, he said, "That's okay. That's okay, because it's okay to make a mistake. And the whole point is not for everybody to review and fact check what happened to you, but for you to share what it felt like." And I said, "You know what? You're right. So that's okay. I made a little bit of a mistake. But if you watch my story called Monogamous at 13, you might go, hey, wait a second. No, that one didn't happen to you in the summertime. That one happened to you in the wintertime." And if you catch that, I'm saying to you right now, you were right. You were right. I did make a small mistake in the filming, but it wasn't the kind of thing where you can go back and redo it. There are no, you don't do a take in a filming situation like that. It's just running, and whatever you're saying is going to be in it, but there's no going back and switching it. So for the sake of accuracy, yes, of course. And anybody who wants to chat with me about that is perfectly welcome to. If you decide to view that episode of my suicide story and you go, hey, wait a second, that doesn't match what she said in her videos, I'd be so happy to have that discussion with you about why. As soon as I started and I was speaking about it, yeah, I did. I mixed it up a little bit at the beginning. But the point is that we have these things happen to us. Some of us experience suicidality, and we decide that we want to stay. And that is far more important than keeping the details of every single incident that you had of feeling that way 100% accurate. It's far, far, far more important that we decided to stay. And it's okay to make mistakes. There is a song, it's by an Australian singer, guitar player, recording artist, composer, and her name is Angie McMahon. I've mentioned her a couple times in my videos. Angie McMahon has a song called Letting Go. And at the end of the song, she's singing about it's okay to make mistakes. And it's a really cool, it's become sort of an anthem for people who ever had severe depression and severe anxiety or suicidality. She doesn't say that that's who it's for, but if you listen to it, you know that's who this music is reaching out to. And so if you're ever interested in hearing a song all about how it's okay for us to make mistakes and we don't have to wreck ourselves over it, we just accept, hey, we made a mistake, and it's okay to make mistakes. And making mistakes is one of the ways that we can that we can kind of get our feet wet on getting back to living. We will make mistakes, and we made mistakes that brought us to that point of feeling so low in the first place. It's okay. We can make them. And it doesn't mean we're bad, faulty, broken, shameful, or malfunctioning. So I'll leave it there for today. I forgot. I put my little piece of glass in there. I love to hold it. It's beautiful. But I hope that this story has helped you. I hope that it helped you to connect to yourself a little bit more. Because connecting to yourself is a massive part of trauma recovery. Your self-care is a massive part of your trauma recovery. And for me, taking this trip was all about self-care. That's exactly what it was. The entire thing. The entire planning of the entire thing. And then coming back and talking about it is still self-care. And I hope that you lavish self-care on yourself in every single way that you can. Because you totally deserve it. You're infinitely worthy of your own trauma recovery. And your self-care is not you being selfish. It is essential to being well. So I'll see you in the next one. If anyone is interested in becoming a client for Certified Trauma Recovery Coaching, you can call me at 716-994-3052. If you know any person or yourself, if you've ever experienced suicidality or have lost someone from it, or if you have someone who you think is a little bit heading that way now, if you want to have a discussion about it, we can talk about that. And I just want to remind you that in July of 2025, I will be a practicing hypnotherapist. And for trauma survivors, that can be absolutely a fantastic healing modality. So if you ever want to talk about that, it's okay to give me a call, and you can even go onto a waiting list for hypnotherapy, because I'm starting a waiting list now for people who want to become clients for hypnotherapy. And you don't have to be seeing me for Certified Trauma Recovery Coaching in order to do that. They're two separate things, and I will be able to offer both for my clients. But for right now, Certified Trauma Recovery Coaching is what I am offering. And if you have any desire to learn about that and have a discovery call with me, it's perfectly fine to call me. You can reach me at my email, which is lin@linbouthillier.com. It's LIN@LINBOUTHILLIER.com. And either one of those ways, with a phone call or with an email, you can reach out to me to request a phone appointment or a Zoom call appointment so that we can have our discovery call and you can learn about how certified trauma recovery coaching can help you get your life back so that you can get back into doing the things that you love to do without having trauma and all the pain that comes with trauma getting in the way and keeping you separated from the life that you love to live. So I hope to hear from you. Have the very best day, everyone. See you next time. Love you all. Bye-bye.